Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Kayla on the podcast coming to us all the way from Virginia. I'm not sure if we've had any other Virginians on the podcast, although with all the amount that I've had on, we probably have. I just don't recognize it automatically. But yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Kayla, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate that. Well, this is a question that I ask to every single guest, regardless of how many times people say, "Oh, it's a boring icebreaker and everything." But what is the weather like today?
Oh man, it is a hot one. I think all across the world, it's a heat wave.
Yeah, like I told her before, it might reach 100. I think it's at like 98 was the high, but usually it goes up like one or two, throughout the day. And it was like that yesterday. So I go on walks at night, so I had to wait until like 9 o'clock to go on my walk, and I got back at like 10:45 just because it was just it was so dry. So I'm gonna have to wait until like later tonight as well. But yeah, I mean this is where I wish I lived, like up in Duluth, right up by Lake Superior, right up there, because it'll be 98 here, it'll be 64 there because of the lake effect. So
I mean, I'm like an inner iguana, so I kind of like it, and I'm all right with it. But most people are not
you
having it.
shouldn't be in Virginia. You should be in like Arizona then. Jeez.
Oh well, see, I need the beach.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
girl forever.
Before everyone's like, "Oh, this isn't a weather podcast," because believe me, we have those idiots out there. To get things started, why don't you just first off give us your backstory? What inspired and motivated you to get in shape, and how that led to you taking the bodybuilding stage, and just your journey.
So I am 25, and I honestly started off my fitness journey as a New Year's resolution about 6 years ago.
So wait, you're one of the New Year's resolutioners that like actually stuck to it, because that's like less than 1%.
Yeah, I am the less than 1% population. And it just started very small, like, hey, this New Year's, you're going to go to the gym 3 times a week. And then it's been a history ever since. I just kind of fell in love with it. You start meeting more people, you get influenced by other people, you start learning more. And, I'm here now and I'm competing in bikini and OCB. So that's exciting. And I just like love where everything is going in my life. It's very much so leaning towards not only my personal life leaning in a fitness direction, but also my career too. So I'm really looking forward to the future with that.
So how long into your fitness journey before you heard about anything about bodybuilding or even considered competing?
Oh man, I remember probably when I was 18. I was just normal girl working out in the gym, and my gym teacher was like, "Hey, you should do bodybuilding." I was like, "I don't know what that is." Like, he like no context with it. Like, I don't know what he was talking about. And then only a year ago, someone was like, "Hey, you should do it. I think you'd be really good at it." And then my partner now was like, "Hey, I'm doing a show. You should do a show." So then I started doing them too.
I mean, hey, just I it's weird how many times I've heard this on the podcast too. Yeah, it's like a teacher or a coach or something like that. Yeah, they just come up to you and they'll just be like, "Hey, you ever think about competing?" And then most people have no idea what that means. And then yeah, it just sort of takes off from there. And had you had any knowledge about what the sport was, or was it one of those things where you just had to go and look it up? Because not that many people are that familiar with the specifics of the sport, even when they get introduced to it.
I really had no idea what I was getting into. I was always like training hard, lifting heavy, but I really had no idea about like nutrition or like how to train, how to get to that very lean state. And also, there's other things that go with competing, right? There's the spray tan, the hair, the makeup, the heels, the posing, the meal prepping, the sacrifices. I had no idea. But my second show went a lot better. So I'm learning more. I'm learning more each day, and I'm so grateful for how I got here.
What were your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them? Like, "Hey, I want to give this a chance."
Oh, friends and family were like, "Oh yeah, you should do it." They were so excited. They come to all my shows. They support me. They follow me. Sometimes they'll come to the gym with me, and they're so supportive. Honestly, I could not do anything I do without them in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many stories on this podcast of guests who might not get that type of support, and it really does make a huge difference in your overall journey, just because it just takes a huge weight off your shoulder if you do get that support. But the mental side of this sport is just so much more trying than the physical side of it, and a lot of people just don't understand that because it's hard to really gauge that when you're outside the world. But a lot of people just, the fact that this sport is like 100 times more mental than it is physical, and the lifestyle of just health and fitness in general, just the mental effects of this sport are so much more prevalent than any of the physical changes, even though the physical is the stuff that you will end up seeing. What has this journey been like for you mentally?
There has definitely been some ups and downs. Honestly, like I don't even know where to begin with like the mental roller coaster that I go through. And I do want to say I have a new coach now. He's been my coach since my second competition, and he's with me now like full time, even in the off season. We call it improvement season. And he has been really helpful and a good mentor and a guide. Just constantly giving me like positive support and telling me things are going to be okay. Like, I completely understand. Let's do this, let's do that. And because he has the experience, right? Like, he has so many girls competing and he knows how, like, you think and body positivity and being confident with yourself and all that stuff. So, and he has like a lot of information and knowledge on women's health, which I really appreciate too. So, I love having him by my side. And I could not do this without a coach or a trainer either.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, I personally have talked to some people who do this just by themselves without a coach, and it's like, God bless you, but they struggle so much more. So if anyone's ever asking me advice of like, oh, how do I get started? It's like, well, first of all, you should find a coach because yeah, they take such a load off, and it just makes it so much easier. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, out of the people I've talked to that said like I didn't even have a coach, I just did this myself, probably like 10% of them ended up being like successful in their endeavor. It's so much harder without that. So yeah, a coach is such a huge factor in this sport. But
For sure. Like, he just having someone like to be accountable for besides myself takes a weight off my shoulder as well.
yeah. Oh yeah, the accountability too. Yeah, because like if you're just accountable to yourself, I mean, thank God I am never accountable to myself with a lot of things because I don't even know what I would be like then because that is just, it's a little too easy for my taste and at least. But I mean, in this sport alone, you sacrifice so much, like you said. I mean, you sacrifice time with friends, you sacrifice, just everything in your life. How have you dealt with that sacrifice? Because that's one thing that a lot of people aren't that familiar with, just the amount of time you have to be dedicated for the sport. What was that like, just sort of adjusting to the fact that, like, hey, I am going to have to make a lot of pretty significant sacrifices for this sport?
Yeah, I would say I had a lot of the routines already inhibited like naturally to, wake up early, work out, get your stuff done. Meal prepping really helps me. Um, when I'm with luckily I'm with my friends, so my friends are supportive, and they understand some to a degree, what I'm doing. So they're not food pushing. They know like I'm tired and stuff, and I do get a little bummed out if I am in prep during a holiday. I hate that because you just want to eat all the like good food and the special like events, and I can still go to the events, but I just have to be mindful of like how hungry I am when I need to eat, or will there be people there that are going to jeopardize my competition? And I kind of have to make a decision if that space is safe for me to go, essentially.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to be a lot more aware of things, and you'll be that one person just showing up with the salad and water at places, or the chicken and rice. And then people are just like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, that's Kayla doing her thing. So it definitely does take a lot of getting used to. And yeah, there's just so many little things, like I told you before, that a lot of people just do not really understand about this sport when it comes to that. But like you mentioned, especially when you're in prep, there are going to be days where you're tired, where you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't feel like doing anything. The one thing that I think separates the general public from bodybuilders is that the general public will find an excuse to not go to that gym and work out. But bodybuilders, they just seem to find something deep down inside them that forces them to get that workout in and stay on track. Where do you think that comes from for you? Or how do you basically psych yourself up to go to the gym on those days when you're not feeling it?
Well, lots of caffeine.
Yeah, that helps.
That always helps. And knowing that I'm gonna be on stage in the smallest amount of clothing is also very motivating, like that you can't hide anything, when you get on stage. You can try, but they're gonna see you lights and everything, in that small bikini or small swimsuit. And um, I also don't wanna let my friends and family down. When I go on stage, I wanna bring the best. Like, when I go on stage, I wanna say, "Did you give it all? Did you give it your all? Okay, I gave it my all."
That's like with me in these podcasts where it's like I don't want to let the guests down, and like that's why I have to edit these things, and that's why I go super crazy and perfectionist on this. So yeah, I understand that to a point, 100%. But I mean, I also have to talk genetics on this podcast because so many people don't understand that look that you have. I mean, a lot of people cannot achieve that just because of the way that you're born. Genetics for a lot of people. I mean, I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want her arms, I want his abs, I want their back. And it's like, I'm sorry. I mean, you can train just like them, you can eat just like them. You're not going to get the same results just because, genetics do play a factor. But on top of that, whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion to get it to catch up. What was one body part that took off for you? And what was one body part that you just had to drag behind to catch up?
Uh, because I surf, my back is pretty good. I don't have to do too much for that. Because there's so much like endurance going on with surfing, and I actually didn't get good at surfing until I started working out. So I'm glad that those came hand in hand for me because now I'm pretty good. I run circles around the guys, in the ocean. So that's pretty good. Right now, OCB Bikini really likes these round glutes. Unfortunately, my mom did not bless me with the most roundest glutes. But I'm working hard on them, and they are good. Like, I'm sure there's plenty. I don't want to say I'm not grateful for what I have right now because I like them, but do they compare to OCB pros? Is the other girl next to me gonna have good genetics with the round glutes? So that's something that I always have to work on myself.
I mean, could I just say within 10 seconds of seeing you, I could tell that you were a surfer girl. So, I mean, I could just automatically tell. So I was like, oh, yeah, she probably surfs. And then the moment that you said, like, yeah, I live close to the beach or basically like on the beach, it's like, well, what do you know? So that's all. I mean, and how do you think really working out really helped you with surfing? Because I know a lot of people use the working out side of bodybuilding to really help them in other aspects of life that you wouldn't really think would be that impactful. Now, surfing would be a little bit more of a one that I could see, but still, like, how do you think that the working out really benefited your surfing?
Yeah, so I always kind of got on my uncle's surfboard as a really small child. But I got my first surfboard when I was 14. And for 2 years, I could not catch a wave. Like I would like catch the white water, but I couldn't, cut and get in the barrel or do anything really because I couldn't paddle hard enough. I was so little. And then 16, I started training, soccer and all my sports. They got me in the weight room, got really strong, and then that really helped. And I'm very grateful because I love surfing. You can't get out of the water.
I mean, yeah, see, there's more than just the physical aspect of this sport that really has benefits. I mean, it does help people in so many more aspects of their life as well.
Oh, yeah. Balancing time, that's a big one. How to say no, but also how to say yes. Like, when do you think you'd like deserve something or quote unquote deserve something?
Teach me how to say no, please, because that is a problem that I do struggle with. And that's the thing that working out didn't even help for me. It's like I'm just one of those people where it's like it's too unpolite for me to say no to someone. So it's just like, oh, I can't do that. So yeah, that is definitely something that I still need to work on to this day, and I'm trying my best at. But I mean, nutrition is such a big part of this lifestyle, and a lot of people in the general public overlook it, and they don't realize that, like, I mean, abs are made in the kitchen. I have these friends that still to this day, I mean, I'm 28 myself, who, tell me it's like, oh yeah, I can go have McDonald's, like 2 or 3 times a week as long as I work out, like 5 or 6 times. It's like, well, maybe now, but call me in 10 years and see how that works out for you. But what was some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made? Because that, to a lot of the guests I have on, was one of the biggest shocks when they first get into this lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, a year ago, I had no idea what a macro was, and I had to learn that very quickly. I didn't know, I never tracked how much I ate, I just ate and worked out, and I looked good, so I didn't have to, like, guess or measure. I didn't even have a scale in my house, Ryan, a year ago, and now I have a food scale. I measure my vegetables, I measure my breakfast and all that stuff.
Wait, you
I
didn't even have a scale?
no.
I would like that personally. Then I wouldn't have to like ever be tempted to weigh myself. Then that'd actually work out. I don't care what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a food scale or like a me scale either. It all started as soon as I had signed up for this competition. I got a coach, and sometimes I miss that girl, but I think now my mindset's obviously to win and get trophies and move my career in a fitness um, direction. But also, I always think about longevity. When I am older, I want to be able to still surf or walk. I want to be healthy. I People talk about how expensive eating healthy is, but think about when you're older. Think about how expensive it is to go to the doctors, or you need this surgery, or you need that medicine. I don't want to be on all. I don't want to do. I don't want to go to the doctors every week. I want to be a healthy human when I'm older.
Yeah, that is something that a lot of people in this sport do not factor in when they're doing some things in this sport. And I wish a lot more people would realize that it's like, just look at yourself maybe when you're 50 or 60 and see like how this is going to impact you. So I'm glad that you at least are thinking that, because that is a huge thing that I talk to some of their guests too. They're even in their 50s and 60s, and they've done it either the right way or they've done it not the right way. And sometimes it really does have an impact on you. But just going through a prep, a lot of people don't understand how much of a toll that takes on a person. What was that like when you first went through a prep? And I mean, how did you get through it? Because like I told you, I lasted 4.5 weeks into my only prep that I ever did, and I knew I was gonna last. But like, how did you get through that? Because for me, anyone that goes through a prep is just astonishing to me, because I was not able to.
Yeah. Don't let me fool you. The first prep was not a pretty prep. There were lots of me coming home from like I would work out twice, do a lot of cardio. My first coach had me on very, very low calories, and I would come home. I would like eat my like scheduled meal, but then my like brain would shut off and I would eat my whole kitchen. Literally eat my whole kitchen. And then it's like, dang, like I have to go back to the gym and do all this cardio. Then I have to like factor that in tomorrow. I can't eat all this. And the cycle just repeated and repeated. Somehow I was able to get it together for a solid like 3 weeks towards the end to make it a like an okay body to be on stage. Like I'm sure to people it was great, but it wasn't like competitors like this is amazing. I still got trophies and awards, but it wasn't the same as this prep. This past prep was very different. My new coach had me on higher calories. We did like a slow game to the end. It wasn't crash diet, low calories, a lot of cardio. It was get foods that nourish your body, eat foods that keep you satisfied longer, eat in volume. It really helped. There was only one day where I ate off plan because I was at an airport and my flight got delayed. So there was nothing I could do about that one. But I think it was an overall very good prep and I was very happy with it. So just knowing your body really helps you get better and better each time.
Thank you for saying knowing your body, because so many people don't, and they assume that they know what their body can and will do, and that just leads to absolute disaster. And I mean, this podcast and the sport and bodybuilding in general should just be renamed trial and error, because that's really what it is. It's just trying
Yeah.
something until you find out what works for you. And a lot of people just don't understand that, where they just think like with the body parts, where if you train just like someone, you're going to look just like them. A lot of people just assume like, oh, if I do the same nutrition or if I do the same prep that this guy did, I'm going to be just as good as he looks, or I'm just gonna finish just like he does. And it's just, oh my god, people, I am almost putting myself to sleep talking about that because it is just so annoying to me. Where it's, I don't understand why people still think that. But again, thank you at least for bringing that up. But on top of just the overall bodybuilding shows and everything, one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that for a lot of these guests, posing is the hardest thing for them. I mean, it's harder than your nutrition, it's harder than the working out. What has your experience with posing been like?
Um, I remember first putting on a suit and you're just like, I don't look like them quite yet. I don't know if I will look like them ever. And you're always constantly comparing yourself and you're really, I hate the first time seeing yourself in the mirror. You're like, dang, I got a lot of work to do. This is gonna be a long prep. I want lots of being going to bed hungry, waking up hungry, lots of cardio. Um, but posing is very important in the sport, unfortunately. And one thing I will say that I do dislike about bodybuilding and bikini and posing and stuff is that when you get on stage, no one has any idea what you just endured the past couple of weeks. It is a single moment in time. You don't look like yourself. At least for me. Like right now, I have short hair. I don't have a tan on. I have no makeup on right now. So you are a whole different person, and it's just one moment. You get what 5 minutes tops, 10 minutes on stage. Out of all the weeks that you just did. You know, so just going through posing constantly does really help the judging though. And you need to practice. It's very important. Almost as much as nutrition.
I mean, you mentioned it, and the one thing that I appreciate probably the most about the people that compete in the sport is, like you said, yeah, you're only on that stage for 5 to 10 minutes, and you've put in more work than I did for any of my sports, and I was out there for hours at a time, dozens of times a year. So I look at that aspect of the sport, and I'm like, okay, these people must be absolutely crazy to do this because that dedication for that little amount of time on stage. But it's just so inspiring that people go through all of that just for that little amount. But again, you guys probably experience more on that one thing on stage than I ever did, on any competition, because the focus is on you and it's all about your hard work and, your dedication. But out of the bikini poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
My favorite, um, I guess it's like a more like a transition. I really like the transitions because you can make it very unique to you. And I do like personalizing it. I do have trouble with the front pose and trying to twist my body into this weird position where you're trying to see my shoulders, but you can only see the side. Like it was very difficult at first. And I do yoga like once a week, and I'm very flexible, but it's a very hard pose for me to get down.
Yeah, I mean, at least you said you're flexible because I found most bodybuilders to not be flexible, especially with all the added size. Did your flexibility suffer at all when you put on size? Because I would just assume, not knowing really anything about, flexibility and muscle, because I am 6'3" and I was never flexible a day in my life. Did you lose any flexibility or was it still there?
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, the flexibility was still there. It's a constant. I practice, every week. So stretch after every workout. It's important to stretch for muscle recovery. And I'm surprised more athletes don't stretch. I don't think they understand that they could lift more or have a better workout the next day if they did that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people stretch enough for sports, like just regular sports like baseball, basketball, football, any other sports. So I would figure that, like after a workout, yeah, some of them should not. I think I've only talked like a handful of people that have actually mentioned that after a workout doing the stretching, and I've talked to like hundreds of bodybuilders. So I don't think it's as prevalent as it should be. So yeah, anyone out there who's listening, just try it for a couple days and see how it impacts, your next workouts. Because I do think it might, play a pretty big role in recovery at least. Just yeah, stretching it out and getting everything loose and ready. But one thing with being a bikini competitor is that you sort of have to have that sass and flair when walking on the stage that a lot of other divisions don't need to have. I mean, it's just part of the bikini division. And that's something that I believe that like you're either born with or it's very hard to teach if you're not born with it.
Mhm.
That sass and that flair, was that something that you always had or was it something that you had to learn?
Oh, for me, I'm still learning. I'm a very I was a tomboy growing up, so when they were like, "Yeah, put on heels and you have to flip your hair," I was like, "What?" Like, I squat 245, I don't wanna do that, you know? So, it was something I am still learning how to be feminine and confident and sassy, but I can put on a mask for 10 minutes. It's fine.
I mean, you answered it already, but I mean, just those heels, how did you deal with that?
Oh, I cry every time. I'm like, Get me out of these heels, please." They hurt so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said if people want to break the internet, just have the guys go out there in those heels and, see how tough, because it's like, yeah, you people have suffered enough. You don't have to make more high heels. I don't care if you think it adds femininity to the show. It's just like, no. Wearing high heels is just torture for people that are so dieted down and so depleted to walk on that stage with all that tan on and everything. It's like, no, just make it a little bit easier on them and it really won't impact really anything at all. That's at least my 2 cents. But now we go to my favorite question on the podcast. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Post-show meal? Ooh, um, I love pizza. Pizza is definitely my favorite. I actually planned a whole trip to Italy right after this past competition. I ate probably 2 pizzas every day. I was in heaven.
Well, that's at least good because I've heard at least that like European pizzas, like they're not as fatty as American pizzas are, so you could probably get away with eating more over there.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Honestly, the food there is all like whole foods, it's not like processed and stuff. So my stomach never felt better. But as soon as I arrived back here, my stomach's like, mm-mm, we don't want that anymore. I don't know what you just put inside me, but we don't like it.
I mean, yeah, I've heard stories from people that I knew through college or high school that did like a semester abroad and they lost like 10, 15 pounds without even doing any physical exercise, just from
Yeah.
eating the foods over there. And then the moment they come back like a month later, they put on all the weight back on. But it's just, yeah, it is fascinating to think about. Yeah, especially when you talk to them and they're just like, yeah, it's just, the portions are just different and you just eat it. It's just, I wish we would adopt more of that stuff here where it wouldn't be as just factory made as a lot of things are here. But another thing that I love to talk about too is post-show blues, because so many people don't understand the fact that that look that you present on stage is not sustainable. You're not going to look like that 365 days out of the year, unfortunately. And I mean, some people I've talked to have tried to keep that look and it doesn't end well because, let's be honest, you're not your healthiest when you're on that stage, and the human body is not meant to be in that, you know, position for a long period of time. But what was that like when you first realized that, like, hey, all this hard work that I put into this look, I am gonna have to put on some size? And has it gotten easier for you as your career in the sport has gone on to sort of realize that, like, hey, this is something that I need to do for my health?
Hmm. Good question. The first prep and competition I did after, I didn't have a coach for the post show. Um, Really long story, but we had a falling out, so he wasn't there, and I didn't gain a lot of weight. I gained probably like 15 pounds, but I really wish I did have a backup plan or a plan after competition. And it took me a while to get my appetite under control once again, because I would eat a normal meal and feel full. But like I would say like 10 minutes later, I was hungry again and I was craving like all the bad food. I sometimes like you just couldn't stop. And this was like from me like crash dieting for my first competition. Second competition, I had my coach. He's giving me a diet. We have a good plan for improvement season. We're building muscle. But I definitely am cautious because he gave me more calories because, to gain muscle, you need a surplus. And I haven't quite felt comfortable with eating all these calories because I do like having abs and my six pack, and being lean. But I know in order to bring my next best package, I have to be a little bit bigger muscle wise. So I'm still working through that mentally, I think. But I have a very supportive partner, very supportive friends, and supportive coach. Tell me, you look great. This is amazing. Your body looks awesome for like the season we are in right now. And I think it's a personal journey coming to the reality that I'm not going to look like that, every day.
Do you think that being a surfer and, living close to the beach does add a little bit more of that pressure where you think that you have to maintain a certain look year round because you will be at the beach?
No, I'm probably still the most leanest person at the beach. I just have really high expectations for myself. I don't judge anybody for like any of their body. Like that's them. You look great. That's amazing. I'm glad you can put on that bikini and feel good, or that swim trunk and feel amazing. But I'm talking about me personally. I like to be leaner.
Oh, well, yeah, like for me, like I would not even go to a beach shirtless if I wasn't looking a certain way. So yeah, I would take that as if just me personally, if I live close to a beach, like I'd be like, okay, I need to be somewhat lean, year round then, because you're not gonna, I don't want to be caught without that. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people that I've talked to from like Florida and California struggle with, where it's like nice weather all year round and just, oh my
Mhm.
god, I got to go to the beach and show off my six pack that I try to maintain 365 days out of the year, no matter. And it's like, okay, well, best of luck with that, at least. But I always compare it to like starting your own business too, where you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. I mean, unfortunately, those two do go hand in hand. But if I'm going to be completely honest, cardio is the bane of my existence. I hate it more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean actual running. I go for walks all the time, like I told you before, and I'm totally fine with that. But when you become a bodybuilder, you sort of sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
Ooh, I don't run. Ooh, you will never see me run. I think it's really bad for my knees, so I try to avoid that. I love walking. I think it's the best cardio that doesn't make you hungry, and I love walking outside because it's just good for the soul too. But if I'm trying to be efficient, you'll see me on the stair stepper, just busting it. But I'm surfing. If I surf for an hour, I burn about 500 calories according to my Apple Watch. I love to ride my bike. I love to hike. I'm very lucky that the things I love doing happen to be fitness related, so it kind of helps.
Do you find that you surf not as much when you're getting leaner and leaner into preps, or do you still maintain like a regular surf schedule?
No, yeah, unfortunately, like towards the
I was
last
gonna say with the brain fog that you're having, you probably shouldn't be out in the middle of the ocean on a surfboard.
yeah. The last part of prep, it's very difficult, and not a lot of people know this, but if you're out in the sun, you tend to retain water. So I can't be out in the sun surfing towards, especially the last 2 weeks, because I'll retain water for stage. Unfortunately, I do lose that just because I'm so tired too. You really don't have time or energy for anything but prep. You get tunnel vision almost.
I mean, I was gonna say that's like a drowning hazard if you were to go out when you were like close to a show, because like who knows what would happen with that. But sleep is
Yeah.
another thing that is not talked about as much as it should be. It's the most important thing in any lifestyle and just life in general. And anyone that disagrees with me on that, I always tell them pull an all nighter, then try to work out or do your normal tasks. Now I'm going off an all nighter myself, and that's just because I have severe back pain from I strained a muscle in my back. So that's why I'm flubbing my words on here, everyone. But by the time this is edited, you guys won't even be able to tell the difference. Only my guests will have known. But I mean, sleep is so important. And again, I'm living proof of that just looking at me right now. But people don't understand that there's a certain point in your prep where you get so lean and so exhausted that you can't sleep. And that seems kind of like an oxymoron where it's like, wait, you're so tired that you can't sleep, but it's true. And how do you deal with that lack of sleep that eventually comes to everyone during their prep? Because I'm gonna be honest, if I had to work out today, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm just gonna go for a walk later tonight and I'll probably be half asleep doing that as well. But like what you guys do those last few weeks of prep or that last couple of months when you are getting that lack of sleep and still hitting the gym and doing the cardio, like I don't understand how you're able to do that.
Yeah. I don't have that problem as much as some people. My partner really struggled with that. I felt bad because we both went through prep together, and he
Why?
really.
Why would you do that? I hear all those store preps like prep together. It's like you're gonna need like your parents to come and babysit you or something like that. It's like you cannot have both people on prep because next thing you know, there's gonna be like car keys in the stove and it's gonna like heat them up or something like that. There's gonna be oh god.
We did great. We love it.
Okay.
We're doing another
Okay.
one here soon. Yeah, we're very good together. We're a very good team. Honestly, I don't think I could do it without him doing one as well. But I only felt it the last, couple weeks where I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm starving. I'm like, give me my first meal right now. And then if it's not time yet, you have to try to go back to sleep. But if you can't, just eat your meal. Go work out. Go get all those stuff you want to get done first. Like if you have work, it's better to wake up than go to work, get all the mental parts done and then go work out and then you can just relax the rest of the day. I love knocking everything out as soon as I wake up because it's just easier for me.
I mean, that is one of the reasons why I wish they would make publicly available that laughing gas that they give you to fall asleep, like when you're getting like surgery or something like that. But then again, that would fall into the wrong hands and then disaster would probably happen. But still, like, just let people that are responsible have that, because like how many times I wouldn't, because then I would never have nights like last night where I didn't get any sleep. It's like, just give me something that just knocks me down. I don't care if I get quality sleep or not. Just put me out for like 7 or 8 hours. But yeah, that's my personal thoughts. But yeah, that sleep is,
I mean, that's why they make medical marijuana, right? Just shoot.
it's not legal in Minnesota.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, no, they just made medical legal, but now they don't. But now it's not, regular stuff isn't legal. I mean, they mistakenly, I think, just made TCH gummies legal here, but there's not. That's the only thing that's really like legal. So yeah, I'd have to go all the way to Colorado. I think is the nearest one that has it. So
Mm,
it's a
dang.
lot of fun here. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the only benefit is that like, what isn't is gambling 21 in Virginia?
We don't really have casinos here. They are the one, but I think it's 21. Yeah.
I think, but then the only thing that we have is that it's 18 in the Midwest. Just because, I
Oh.
mean, we have a lot of Native American reservations that have the casinos here. So when we turn 18, that's when we get. That's the only benefit really of here is like we gamble 3 years earlier, so we can lose money. We can lose money before you guys. So that's the only real positive of that at least. But also, I mean, like, let's be honest, as you're getting leaner at a show, you're not the average looking person. You're to walk out in public. I mean, you sort of become like a mini celebrity, as I like to say it, where it's like you draw people's attention just whenever someone sees something that's not of the normal, they're just like, oh yeah, that's fascinating. Has that gotten easier for you to accept that, or is it still one of those things where you're just like, okay, it's kind of weird that I'm drawing a lot of the people's attention?
Um, I don't notice. I go just kind of do my own thing and look where I'm going. But my boyfriend, if we're walking together, he's like, "You just turned everybody's heads, like men and women." And I'm like, I don't know. Like I just walk around. um, some people will comment, and it's always kind of funny. And I'm not used to it yet. I kind of laugh and like do that embarrassing. Oh, thank you. um, but it's nice. It's a nice compliment.
I mean, that's why I always kind of wonder when people tell me it's like, yeah, I'm used to it and everything. It's like, I don't think as a human being you can really ever get used to people just walking up to you and just saying stuff without like. I just think like deep down inherently you can't, like, obviously you can adjust to it and just be like, okay, this might happen, but I still think it's just a weird thing to like just have some people come. I mean, not weird in the weird sense, but just weird like it doesn't happen to a lot of people where it's just something that is very specific to a few amount of people, but this is a thing that I think in my head every single time I have a guest on, regardless. I mean, health and fitness wise, at least, is why do they put themselves through this? Why do they do this? I hear all these prep brain stories, and I'm just like, why do they do it? Now, like I've announced a dozen times already, like I know why you guys do it because I've talked to so many of you, and I've also done about 1% of what you guys do. So I have a little bit of knowledge in it, but I bet you still hear that from, friends and family, even to this day, or just people in general that come up to you and say, like, Kayla, why do you do this to yourself? Especially on those days when you're really struggling. But how do you like to respond to that? What is your why that you like to tell them?
That is a tough one. Um, I don't ever have the same answer for them. It depends on how I'm feeling.
Well, what is the answer today?
Today, I put it through I go through it, for myself because I would really like for my career and my main source of income to be through fitness. And I think I have to look the part and prep and having a coach and eating right and going to the gym and training and being a healthy person will help me succeed with that.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you do need to maintain a look. That's why if I ever see a doctor that's like severely obese, I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen to you. Or if I see, something with, I mean, you have to look the part for some things too. And that's one of those things that just
Mhm.
applies with, health and fitness in general. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much motivation that this inspires, and just being able to set an example for others too is just a big part of this, lifestyle as well. But now we go to my two favorite questions before we wrap things up. My two, I know I said I had my favorite question, which was, what do you like to eat after a show? Which that is probably my favorite one, but these are the golden ones here. That this is the stump questions, basically, where it usually takes people a while to think about it. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Kayla, we made a decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Ooh,
See, we save them for the end here.
yeah. Very good question.
I could give you mine while you think.
You can give you what?
I can give you my answer while you think.
Okay, sure.
So obviously with pay, my thing is, like, if you're a pro in this sport, you should not have to have a day job, really. I mean, like, I'm not saying be like a millionaire just for becoming a pro, but I'm saying, like, have enough money where you can just focus on this and maybe do something as like a side hustle, just like make a little bit extra money. But like, so many people don't understand that a lot of these competitors who have regular jobs and they do bodybuilding, it's like it makes their lives so much more harder than it really needs to be. And if they did have that source of income where they're just, able to do this by themselves, whether it's through sponsorships or whatever, I mean, first of all, the results would be so much better, and it would make life so much easier on the people just having just to worry about, bodybuilding and being able to afford other things. So that would be the one that I would go for, like, the whole sport. But then also with judging, where it's just like everything else in sports, there's a lot of human error where you might go to a show 2 weeks apart and have the same lineup and get different results just because it's human preference with a lot of these judges. So just to have like a normalized, this is exactly what we're looking for, and everyone can try to just look like that, and that's how we'll judge it, because so many people just don't win their pro cards, or they don't win shows, or they place not as good at shows just because the person there might want a different look than what they're presenting, as opposed to a different judge who's like, oh my god, that person looks absolutely outstanding. So that would be probably my big one.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's very difficult with the job, but there is it's respectable to also have a career, because
Oh yeah.
it shows like normal, not no, like average people that you can look this good and work a 9 to 5, and you
Oh yeah, but they should add to it. You can, but it will be
it is
very
very
hard. Yeah. It will. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely is doable, and so many people do it. But I was just like, if you could just ease that a little bit, and just like,
yeah
because it comes to a certain point where it's like, it seems like some of these people are just whipping themselves in the back, basically, with how hard they make their lives. Where it's like, if they were to be given something that would make it so that they wouldn't have to struggle so much, I just think overall it would just benefit it would have much more of a benefit than anything.
yeah. I think definitely getting more pay, not maybe not making it a full-time job type of pay, but yeah, competing is expensive. I don't know, like, how a lot of people can afford to do this sport. Like, I don't know, like, what their personal background is, or like what their career is, but it is expensive, and not your everyday person or every girl could afford to do this. I'm very lucky to be in my position right now where I can, because I really enjoy it. But after all the costs, every contest, every prep, it can add up your bill. So yes, I think the one thing I would change is, at least not even just for like the first place, but maybe like the top 10 or top 5, they should get a higher stipend.
People do not understand the amount of money that people spend in this sport, and how, like, you basically have to finish like top 5 at the Olympia in order to even make money, like to break even. So it's just, that's a huge thing too, where I look at this sport and I'm like, okay, we already talked about this, but like, they spend so much time working out and perfecting themselves more than any other sport, and they're only on stage for a minimum amount of time, and you're making them pay you. It's like, if I would be an outsider, I'd be like, this is the greatest Ponzi scheme that's ever been invented. But it's like, no, it's just, I mean, you just have to, and that would be a thing too, where it's like, yeah, yeah, don't even get me started on people having to pay to compete in a show. It's like, no, you shouldn't have to. You should just, but again, it goes. Yeah, there's a reason. So
Yeah, well, plus, like, you get all the money from the tickets, and we have to pay to enter the show. So it's like, where is all this money going?
I
Because
spent
it's not really.
I spent $75 the last show that I went to 2 weeks ago. It was my first ever show, and it was 30 for prejudging, and then it was 45 for finals. And it was like, you're making these people pay, and there's like 400 or 500 people there. So it's like, just think about how much money you made out of that, and you're still making these people pay to walk on stage. You probably made like 30 grand just on tickets alone. So it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
And the OCB, we have to take a polygraph. That's $50 every time. $50
Wait,
cash.
they charge you to take the polygraph?
Yeah. So there's something to be fixed with right there.
So how's the OCB different from like the NPC? Is it just is it a natural thing?
Yes,
Okay.
OCB is all natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they
So
make you take a poly. They're not just saying like, oh, are you like a communist agent or something like that in the polygraph test. No, so yeah, that's why. But yeah, that is great as well because yeah, I need to have I think more natural guests on because I'm not gonna lie, everyone's like 90% of the guests I have on aren't. So I like to show people like yes, you can do this and you can do it naturally. Now it might take a little bit longer and you might not get the same results, but it's just you can still look great, you can still compete and place well in shows and even win some shows at a natural state. So I appreciate you representing that as well because I do think that needs to get out there more.
absolutely.
And lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Oh man, I just want to say thank you to my partner. He's been such a great supporter, and I don't think I could do anything I do without him. And also my coach for being so knowledgeable on the sport and helping me get through just this roller coaster of emotions. And I'm hoping we get a pro card here soon. So thank you.
Absolutely. And when I do talk to you a year from now, because I like to have you on in a year just to give us an update on what you've been up to, where would you be like to be at in bodybuilding? Where would you just like to be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when we have you back on?
Yeah. So I definitely want to be having a pro card, and I want to be probably in my prep next time because right now I'm in my improvement season, so I'm post show. But I think it'll be interesting to talk to you how I feel when I'm in prep.
Well, now, since I learned you're a surfer, this has to be my final question. What is the biggest wave you've ever surfed?
Probably just a 10-foot wave. Yeah, nothing too crazy.
That's still too much for me. I mean, I'm like, yeah, I've never surfed in my life, and I was like, yeah, that's too, yeah,
What?
yeah. I mean, I've seen like those videos of people doing like the 20, 30-foot waves, and you're just like, you guys are absolutely crazy, but more power to you for doing it because I just want to know the first person that decide like, hey, I'm gonna take this wooden board and go see if I can just stand up on it and go through a wave on it. I want to be there like when that first time happened because then you're like, that's a special type of person that just come up with that. So like, who knows? I might look into the history of surfing then right after I'm done talking to you then, so I can maybe I'm one of those people where I have to look it up then afterwards. But
It's a Hawaii.
yep. Yep. And I mean, again, everyone go and follow Kayla. I'll leave a link down to her Instagram page down below. I highly recommend it. Buyer beware. Like I always say, though, you will get inspired to get in shape and get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies. But again, Kayla, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us and talking to us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.